You're the only person I know that just walks barefoot into a restaurant, into a fancy restaurant in the middle of the day. So that tells that you have nothing to prove.
Sometimes you're just welcome to Hello Grow.
The number one growth podcast in the world.
Today is episode number 30. I'm Court Brady,
I'm Carlos Souza.
and we're just going to be chatting with each other to talk about some of our takeaways, some of the metrics that we've hit, and where we're going from here.
Let's go. Where do we start?
I think it'd be fun to go through some of the metrics. I mean, when we started this thing, it was just let's do something for fun. And I was moving out of Aspen, and we wanted an excuse to hang out together still and to have it be productive, to grow our networks, have interesting conversations with interesting people. And so I was out of it. I was like, dude, I'm done. I'm not going to do a podcast. And you swindled me into it. And I'm so glad that you did. So starting as a passion project, maybe we just talk about some of the metrics that we've hit over the last 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you touched on that. Just kind of remind the audience why we started. Can we do that before we jump into the metrics?
Yeah, why don't you share your experience with Soren and other consultants that we used?
Yeah, so I think it's funny because I had one go with the podcast. Court had one go of his own, and we had a go combined, making it like we had 3 goes as a podcast. So my goal was to, about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was a little stuck at Aspen. I was tasked with we needed to start a sales unit and create processes and standardize everything, create repeatable and scalable sales processes. And I was just stuck. I had never worked in sales, B2B sales before. And I found really difficult to find information that was applicable to what I was doing. So at the time we hired a consultant and we had him on, Soren. And I don't know, we spent a few $1,000s with him, and I just felt very blessed and privileged to be in a position where we could afford to bring in a consultant. But I know that's not the reality for a lot of people, for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of sales leaders that are working in startups. So I just wanted to create a platform for these people, and this is where they can come for knowledge and for information, and they can honestly, this is the place where they can just watch, and things are very practical, and they can apply and grow their sales unit, grow their sales organization. So that was my why, and you had one, and we had one combined.
I don't remember my why outside of wanting to have awesome conversations with awesome people. I think as this is grown, and I've thought strategically about what my next step is, there's this synergy that exists between every successful company is built of successful teams, and starting this new startup and building software for teams specifically to make them successful and make their employees happier at the same time. It's going to be an awesome opportunity for me to bring people on and find out what they did that made their teams highly successful, in addition to just, I love amazing conversations with cool people.
And I think that's our why combined. We wanted to spend time together talking to amazing people. And I gotta say though, like, I'm so grateful for what we've done so far. Like, we're gonna continue on, and we have some big goals for the podcast, but if we finished it today, I would be extremely grateful for everything I learned. I feel like what I learned with the people we brought on would cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars if I had to pay consultants or if I had to go and get an MBA. And we literally had people a couple feet from me teaching us all those things, super open. So it's been an awesome experience for me.
So let's go through the statistics.
Let's do it. This is just on YouTube, right? So we are posting on Instagram and on TikTok.
How many guests have we had, by the way?
We've had 28 guests total. And all these guys combined, we've had well over $1 billion in revenue sitting on that chair.
I get to be in the hot seat today.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You're adding to that.
All of the revenue small drop in that bucket. All of the revenue of all of our guests combined is over $1 billion.
I think it's well over a
Yeah.
billion. Yeah, it's gotta be.
That's cool.
Yeah, just one of the guests that we brought on said 200 million this year. Oh, 140 million this year.
Significant.
And that's just one. Yeah, so well over $1 billion in revenue combined sat on that seat.
And episodes, we've done 28. How many views? How many hours?
So 30 episodes, right? 28 guests, 30
Yeah, that's right.
episodes.
That's right.
We've had a total of 360 hours watched and 17,000 views. That's just on YouTube, though.
That's pretty cool. And we didn't really have goals starting off with this, other than we were doing this for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
And to help educate people. So we're gonna dial in some goals for the second half of 2024, and go after those and try and attack those.
17,000 views, though. We talked about it. We laughed at it a few times, but I mean, we thought that we would get 3.
Yeah.
Our wives and maybe our moms.
Yeah.
4.
That was it.
17,000 people. I mean, maybe less than that, but 17,000 views in total. That's amazing.
That's awesome. Before we go on, I just want to give a huge shout out and thanks to the audience and to our guests. Like, we obviously wouldn't have this without the guests, and we probably wouldn't continue it if no one was listening to it. So it's cool to have people listening to it that we're able to add value to. It happened to me today. I was at lunch, and a kid walked up to me and he said, "Dude, I haven't seen you in a long time, but your content is really awesome. Please keep doing the podcast," because I get a lot of value out of it. And he works, he's a COO at a massive company. He's our age. And it was just cool. Like, I hadn't seen him in a long time for him to bring that up. And that started to happen more and more often. So
how many times has that happened to you already?
A handful. It keeps
crazy.
happening more often. So thank you for those that do like and share and subscribe. It makes a difference to us. We do want to have value and add value and have an impact. So thank you for that. And thanks to all the guests. You guys have been amazing, giving us awesome content.
Yes. Amen to that.
So, Carlos, let's just start off. What's one of your favorite takeaways over the last 7 months?
I wrote down, as we were preparing for this, I wrote down 3 things that really stood out to me, but I'm going to focus on the first one. Troy comes to mind. I mean, I've loved all of our guests, and but I think maybe a common theme across most of them, and it reminds me of what Steve Jobs once said. Steve Jobs said that usually you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And a lot of times we asked these guys, like, how has, what made it work for you? What was the most helpful thing that, took you from point A to point B? What's the reason for your success? And a lot of them struggled to come up with an answer. But if we had to put our finger on one theme, was the ability to put their heads down and just work. Even being ignorant sometimes, just not knowing better. All that they knew was to work hard and to grind. And I think that's the biggest lesson for me. It's not a grand thing or shiny or fancy, but there's no substitute for hard work. And I believe that's the key. Like, that was the theme for most of the success of the guests we've had on.
There's someone that made a comment to me today. He's starting his company. They have 5 employees, maybe 6, between him and his partner and some employees. He said, "I just need to figure out the shortcut." And I just said, "Dude, there's no shortcut. You just, maybe you can learn faster." And he said, "Yeah, but I got to fail more." I was like, "Yeah, that's right. You just got to put in more reps. You'll fail more often, but then you'll learn, and then you'll be able to go."
Yes. It was either Reed or Cole that said that it's one of the superpowers of an entrepreneur to not know much or to be ignorant, because you don't know how hard it is, all you have is hope, and that hope fuels a lot of, gives you a lot of energy to put your head down.
Said something to the effect of, if we knew how hard this was going to be, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have done it.
So one of the superpowers of, I guess, an entrepreneur, a leader, is that, what can we call that? Grit, and a little bit of naive, like you're a little naivety.
Ignorance.
Yeah, ignorance. How about for you?
Oh man, I wrote down a bunch. A couple of business ones. Build a brand that results in a cult-like following because you solve a specific problem for a specific type of person. I really like that. That was from Rob Monson. And I also liked from Taylor Harris, when he talked about his company was doing about $250,000 in profit, and it no longer required him to be part of it. He was on that run. He said, "I'm free." And then the follow-up question, now that he was free, was free to what? And I've thought a lot about that question as well. And I think I've thought about that question a lot because my end result is that the world has done an amazing job of selling us on this idea that what we have is not ideal, and that ideal is somewhere in the future. And that's the entire point of a sell. Like, you can't sell anything unless there is a current state and an ideal state, and those two things are separated from each other. And the bigger you can make that chasm sound to somebody, the easier it's going to be to sell them. And the world is just constantly selling to us of, here's this ideal state that you want to live in, and you're so far away from that, but I have this quick, easy solution to get you there. But when it comes down to it, most people are going to want to have a morning routine. They're going to want to have a team of people that they're solving problems with and working with together every single day. They're going to want to come home at the end of the night and spend time with their family. Like, most people are wired that way. And so embrace that in the moment instead of just like searching for it and then realize, it was here all along.
While you're saying that, it reminded me of something that Bruce said. He said that he does a quick survey in his last class every semester, and he asks like a handful of students to come up to the board and draw a line through their lifetime, how happy they are, and they're going to be. And I think he said something that 9 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 always puts the peak of happiness somewhere in the future, never today or in the past. And I think, kind of going along with what you're saying, we keep chasing this thing that it might have been here all along.
The other thing that stood out to me that's a little less ethereal, but more to do with business success, is we haven't had anyone sit in this seat that's been hyper successful that didn't just love to work. Like, I feel like it's such a gift and blessing to love to work. How do you, like, maybe you've seen something that I haven't seen, but every single person that sat here that's been ultra successful loves to work. They just love it. And so I think if somebody wants to be ultra successful, you got to figure out how to love it. If you can't figure out how to love it, you're just not going to put in the reps and the work necessary to do it.
You talk about the balance and unbalanced thing so well. Can you touch on that a little bit? I feel like a lot of people don't work hard because they are trying to buy into this idea of balance. And I think the way that you explain that is super clear, and I've learned a ton from it.
So it came from Tony Horsley. I was having lunch with him at Teriyaki Grill and just said, dude, like, we got a young family, a kid on the way, a kid at home, and a business that needs a lot of time and attention because there's so many, I'm just juggling, like it's a leaky bucket. And we talked about it, and just said, Core, a balanced life is made up of a lot of stages of imbalance. And that's been said to me by one of my uncles as well. And I think that's true. Like, that is such a lie, first of all, that you should have a balanced life. Any kind of you should do this is a lie anyways. Like, you should be unique to yourself and be 100% what you want and what you want to do. But if the outcome that you want is a life where you're free to choose what you do every day and to have what's considered a balanced life, then it's going to require multiple stages of significant imbalance. And the people in your life are going to have to get on board with that, or else it's never going to come to fruition. And you don't need to force them to be on board with it, but you do need to have the conversations of, here's where we're going and why are you on board with that? And if not, how can we tweak that to make it so it works for you?
I think it is a really good way to put what my dad used to say when I was very young, which it was a bit that's the way that he knew, that's how he knew how to say it, but just delayed gratification. And if you sacrifice today, you reap in the future. If you reap today, you're gonna sacrifice in the future. Kind of around the same lines.
Totally agree. Carlos, we have a lot of takeaways, but I want to jump to the finishing question. We're going to have a lot more of these. So I want to jump to the finishing question. You know what question that's going to be if you were to be sitting across from your 21-year-old self. First, tell me what situation your 21-year-old self was in and how much you're making and all of that. It was only 5 years ago. What advice would you give to yourself?
Feels like yesterday, though. My situation when I was 21, let's see. Recently married. Had just moved to the U.S. to go to college. I was working 21. I had a part-time job at the college, making $14,000 a year, and I had another part-time on the side, which added another $1,000 a month. So I was making a total of $28,000 a year, maybe 26. Just living in a rented basement. That to get to that basement, I had to walk through this old couple's front door and go through some very unpleasant experiences doing that. I had a car that the first time I filled up, I was a broke student, so I didn't have time to fill up the tank, 100% all the time. But the first time I did it, the fuel tank, fell on the ground. And half of the tank it was just like half of the gas that I had put in was just leaked. and you got my feet wet. It was a mess. And I was happy, but very, very different situation than what I'm in today. So what advice I'd give to Carlos 5 years ago is, dang it, that's a good question. I've seen this video a few times. Someone asked the question, what would happen if you exceeded your wildest dreams? Something around those lines. Have you heard that question? And I think that's what I would tell young Carlos is whatever you're dreaming. My dream at that time was to finish college, get a job that would pay me 6 figures, and live a stable life. And I'll tell him, hey, if you could take that dream that you have, and what if you got more than that? What if you could get more than that? I think it would be something like that. Just dream bigger. Just think higher, dream bigger. You actually are better than you think you are. And dream bigger.
A couple of people that have sat in the seat have said that same thing.
True. Now I reverse the question back to you.
I think we're out of time. I thought about this question because I've asked it to all of our candidates, or all of our guests that we've had on the podcast. I think if I was sitting across from 22-year-old Court, I'll do 25-year-old Court, because that's when I was leaving a really high-paying job to go start 4 years of zero income, 3 years of zero income. And I think that if I had the chance to sit across from that Court, I would say, you don't have anything to prove, you're already enough. And then I would just listen without judgment. I don't think I needed a lot to learn. But I think I needed somebody to listen, to just not judge, or not have any forbidden thoughts or comments or lines of thought that I wanted to go down. So I think that's what it would be. I feel like I generally most people do come to their own conclusions, but we don't have a lot of people that listen and ask the right questions for us to help us come to those conclusions.
Yeah. And I think you're probably one of the few human beings I know that I think you understand that you are enough. Like, I'd never see you. I'm always impressed with the way that you conduct yourself, and that you're never trying to prove anything to anyone. So, good job. You're the only person I know that just walks barefoot into a restaurant, into a fancy restaurant in the middle of the day. So that tells that you have nothing to prove.
Sometimes just thanks for the.
That's what a lot of money does.
Compliment. To you. Well, guys, we're gonna have tons more entrepreneurs, sales leaders. We're gonna be talking about how to build highly successful teams, how to start companies, how to build organizations. And we're excited to bring you another 28 guests over the next few months.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing more and more of these reviews and sharing our thoughts on these. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, give us your support, and we highly appreciate it, guys.
You've been watching Hello Grow, the world's #1 growth podcast. I'm Cortland Brady.
I'm Carlos Souza. If you've watched this video so far, it means that you like the content that we're putting out and the people we're interviewing.
We're putting together a community of business leaders, entrepreneurs, and sales leaders. You liking, subscribing, and sharing this content helps us reach those that are going on that journey.
If you want to be a part of this community, please subscribe, smash that like button, and turn on those notifications.